Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another December daily video. This is from 2017 and I will be working on days 6 through 8. So the story that I'm going to be telling for day 6 is all about decorating our Christmas tree, and I'm going to be doing this as an insert. I'm not going to be putting it into a page protector. So I actually had initially thought this was going to be a little bit bigger, maybe even a 6x8. But for some reason, when I went back to look at my photos, I realized a lot of the photos that I took were kind of similar to each other. So I kind of pared it down and I decided to just do the one large photo and then the collage of only 4 photos. So then I think this insert is it measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 by 5 inches. And so I was just able to make the collage. I actually did it just in Lightroom and then printed them both right from Lightroom. You can see that I cut it out. And I just really cut out 2 sides, the top and one of the sides that is going to be adhered together. And then I can just crop off the extras at the end there. So I gathered some supplies to do some heat embossing onto an acetate. So I bought this hot off the press brand a couple months ago. I just haven't found time to use it. So I'm excited to be able to use it in my December daily. Now I could have just done this right onto my photo, just added the text right onto my photo, but I wanted to use these stamps and I don't have these stamps digital. So this is a great option for that. Plus I thought the embossing powder would add some texture as well. So off camera, I just went ahead and I cut the acetate, and now I'm looking at these embossing powders to decide which I want to use. I've got a glittery red, and then I have this rose gold one from Simon Says Stamp. I like the rose gold one a little bit better. The glittery one, I don't think it comes off very smooth, and with the text I thought I should get something a little bit more smooth. So I'm pulling over my this is my Misty tool just to help me get it right in the exact place that I want it. I'm going to go ahead and use my Versamark ink. This is a sticky ink that's going to allow that powder to stick right to it. And then you're going to see what happens once I put the embossing powder on there. So putting the embossing powder on there, and it's going to create a huge mess. Part of it is because I stamped onto this plastic, and the plastic is staticky, and it's going to it's going to pick up as much of that powder as it can. So I decided to do it over, and this time I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool. So you definitely want one of these. This is a bag. You see me kind of rubbing it all over. You want to use one of these when you're embossing anything. It allows for you to not have embossing powder go all over, because that embossing powder is attracted to the static. It's attracted to the fingerprints. So in doing that, you can see now, watch what happens here, how awesome it is. It's just going exactly where I stamped. I think maybe there was a few pieces here and there, but for the most part, it looked really good. So I just wanted to show you my mistake and show you like right there how like the difference between using that anti-static powder tool. So if you want to do some embossing, you definitely want to pick up one of those. They have several different brands out there, but definitely check it out because you're going to want that if you're going to want to do embossing. So you can see that I'm just adding heat to it. And because I haven't used this acetate before, I didn't know if it was going to curl up at all. I mean, sometimes the paperwork will curl up. So I was kind of afraid that it might warp the plastic a little bit. So I kept doing it. I would do it some, and then I'd pull it off, and then I'd put the heat on it some more. And then I also put it on the back as well. And that helps the warping. But you know, when I was done with it, I found that it didn't warp at all. So you can see it right on top of the photo, just what it looks like. I'm trying to wipe off some of that powder, and it does easily come off. And you can see that I'm just looking at it, and I'm not 100% satisfied. I didn't love that. It almost looked a little brownish red, and I didn't love the color. And so I decided to do it again in white. So I just went ahead and cut another piece of acetate. Or actually, I didn't cut another piece. What I ended up doing is I took the other piece that I had cut and I just wiped off the embossing powder, and I just wiped it off, and then I added more of that powder, the anti-static powder tool, and then I'm just going to emboss it in white. So it's basically the same steps, but I'm doing it in white instead of the rose gold. So you can see that because I use that anti-static powder tool, it's coming out really great again. And I'm not necessarily wiping off the embossing powder, but there's some powder from that anti-static powder tool. So I just decided, I was just kind of trying to wipe off some of that. If you don't have one of those tools, but you want to do some embossing and it's not coming out clean, I think you could use something like cornstarch would work. I think just as well. So I definitely like the white a little bit better. And you can see that I've just grabbed over a cloth and I'm just wiping off some of that powder, that residual powder away, so it'll become a clear acetate once again. And keep in mind, one thing that I did notice as I was wiping it away, that plastic, that acetate did tend to scratch. So just be careful as you're wiping it away, not to wipe it too hard, because I felt like it did kind of tend to scratch. All right, so now I'm going ahead and adhering both of those on. You can see that I ran out of some adhesive. I just went ahead and replaced that. So I'm adhering both of those together, and then I'm just going to cut off the excess on two sides, so the bottom and the side. This is the best way I know how to adhere two photos or two things back to back without having to cut off a lot of your photo or a lot of your pattern paper or whatever it is you're trying to cut. So one of the things that was kind of bugging me is I did not want the deck the halls covering her face. So I should have been a little bit smarter and maybe measured it, and I could have offset it, although I really did kind of want it in the center. So it was kind of bugging me there. And at this point, I decide to completely change my mind. And was it at this point? I'm not sure if it was this point, but I'm also trying to figure out two things. I want to add some journaling and I wanted to add a number. So because of those things, and it always helps you to think a little bit more creatively or outside the box, I decided to rip these apart, and I decided to add a different photo on the outside, and that this would kind of create a book where there'd be a different photo on the outside, and then on the inside I'll use that tag and write my journaling on there. So you can see that I printed another photo. This is a photo of just the tree with the twinkle lights. And I'd actually originally thought of doing this idea, but I didn't want to add this photo of the tree with the twinkle lights because I wanted it for something else. But I felt like this was going to be my best option for this day. So I just decided if I actually did want to tell another story with the tree, I could totally do it because it's within my control to do whatever I want, right? So I decided not to worry about it. And if I wanted to end up using that photo again or something similar, I totally could. That's what Christmas is all about anyways, is the twinkle lights. So there's nothing that says you can't have as many photos as you want in your album of twinkle lights. So I decided not to worry about it. So I adhered that to the large photo, and then that's going to be the inside of the book. So you can see how it's laid out there. And then I will just have that transparency on the outside. And I definitely like that a lot better. Really happy with the way that this is coming together. So now I'm just going to go ahead and punch the holes. And the easiest way I have found in doing this, when you're using these page protectors because they're slipping around, is to get like an alligator clip or something where you can clip everything together. And I decided that I was going to, and at this point, I'm not sure why I'm not doing them all together. I think I was trying out this smaller punch, because I definitely like having the smaller punch opposed to the larger punch, because I like it to be a little bit more snug in the album, but it just felt too tight with that acetate. So I pulled over my other punch. This one is 1/4 of an inch, and you can see that I grabbed over both photos, and now I am just punching it with the larger punch, and it went through the acetate just fine. I think in a perfect world, I would have Making Memories make a punch that was in between these two punches. So not 1/8 of an inch, not 1/4 of an inch, but in between. So that would be awesome if they did that, because then it would, I feel like the bigger punch, it kind of flops around a little bit, and the smaller punch is just a little too snug. Anyway, if I was manufacturing, that's what I would do for myself, but maybe other people are not wanting it. But I don't know, just a thought. I actually just stuck a piece of paper on the backside there because there was adhesive. So that's the reason why I stuck that paper on there. But you'll see in the end, well, in day 7, you'll see me work on the backside there, and I just end up taking it off. So now I'm looking to do a little bit of embellishment. So I grabbed over some chipboards. I believe this chipboard is the one that actually came in the kit. And now I'm doing a little bit more punching. And because of the way the tag fits, the tag was going to go right through one of those holes. I decided to move it down a little bit, and then I'll just cut off the bottom. You can see, I think that's maybe a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, but because of the way it was hitting that, the other hole, I didn't want it to be like partially, a partial hole. So I decided to move it down, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. I think because I'm not using anything that's slippery, so that's why I'm not using the alligator clip for that. I just did it really quickly. And it's funny, as I'm like setting this back on my album, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did the holes wrong. Like, it's not matching up. And then I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to cut off the end. So yeah, I didn't even remember that I wanted to do that. I'm also thinking about a way that I want to add a number to this day. And so I pulled over these number circles, and you can see that I'm grabbing over a 5. And I guess I was forgetting that I'm actually working on day 6, but you will see that I don't put on day 5. I actually do put on day 6, but at the beginning I kind of forgot about that. And I switched out the circle embellishment there. And one of the things that I was looking at is I was trying to determine if having that circle embellishment and then having that circle 5 was, I don't know, too many circles or getting in the way of each other. So that's kind of what I was looking at. I decided that I actually liked it. I just really liked the circle there intersecting all of those photos. So I decided to keep it. And then I really liked that pop of red as well. Thought it kind of went with the other pops of red on the other side where, in the photo, the ornaments got the red, which is also a circle, and then the red from the journaling from day 5. So I just like how that pop of red kind of went with that as well. So now I'm just turning over the tag, and I'm going to start my journaling. You'll see that the ribbons are actually getting in my way. So after I took all that time to get the ribbon on there, I decided to take it off. And now I'm just going to write my journaling. The journaling is just all about decorating the Christmas tree. And I can't remember specifically what's it about, but yeah, it's just about decorating the Christmas tree. And then because it's probably because I didn't want to retie that bow, and it was a little bulky. You'll see that I end up taking out the green chevron, and then I'm just going to do the gold. It's like white twine with some gold foil in it. So it's a really pretty, this is from May Arts. It's really pretty. They have a silver as well. But you can see that I'm just going to go ahead and do this twine instead of doing the green. I really did like the green, but it did add a little bit of bulk. So that's why I decided not to keep it there. And you saw also that I switched over the number. So I remembered that it was day 6. And I'm using to adhere that, because it does have adhesive on the back of that sticker. It's actually a sticker. I decided to use some pop dots there to pop it up. So that's what I'm doing there, just to give it a little bit of dimension. I thought that would be kind of nice. I tend to like doing that when it's stickers, like thin stickers. I like to kind of pop it up to give the illusion of some dimension, just like the chipboard. So I kind of like doing, adding some type of foam on the bottom of it. So now I am going to work on the Avery tabs, just some tabs to go on the outside, so it will help it'll help you to be able to turn it more, but then people won't be, you know, sticking their fingers because that photo is exposed. So I have these Avery tabs that I bought quite a while ago. I think I've used them before, but not a ton. And they are only an inch instead of the regular 2-inch Avery tabs that I usually use. These are only an inch big. And so that was one of the things I was looking for when I was looking at the stamps, is to find some stamps that would work with the 1 inch, and there definitely were some on there. I think one says create joy, and maybe the other one says tradition. I can't remember right offhand. I can't really see it, what it says, but I decided to do those two, and they fit just great. The reason why I'm doing the 1 inch is because obviously these photos are a little bit smaller, and so I just wanted something, you know, a little bit smaller. I just didn't want them to be too big. So you can see that I'm just trying to figure out which one I want to be on top and which one I want to be on the bottom there. You can see that the second one I decided to put on the bottom, and I'm not adhering the back side because I'm obviously going to do something to the back there. All right, you guys, so let's get started on working on the back side of day 6. So I'm looking through my pattern papers because I want to do like a little break. So I think I mentioned in my walkthrough of 2016 that occasionally I would put in a page that wasn't associated with a day or a story, just to kind of break them up, just to kind of give you a little bit of a breather. So that's what I wanted to do here. I was thinking about putting day 7 on here. Like I had a story that I was going to use and put the journaling on there that I actually use for day 8. But I decided that I wanted just a little bit of a breather. And I think it wasn't enough space for the journaling. So that's another reason why I did that. So I'm using a die cut from Concord and 9th. So this die cut actually goes right along with the stamp set that you can see off to the right. They're both from Concord and 9th. And I went ahead and die cut that die 4 times because I want to stack it up. And you can see that the pattern paper I picked, I just really wanted something that white would just be really bold and stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stamp set, and the words in the stamp set are meant to be used with this die. You can see that they're kind of at a diagonal like the die is. And I'm going to use the Versamark ink, and this is a pigment ink. So what's going to happen when I stamp it down, I'm going to be able to put it in some clear embossing powder, and it's going to stick to it, and then I'm going to be able to emboss it. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted it to be raised just a little bit instead of being a flat stamp. So that's why I'm doing that, and that's why I chose that ink. If you didn't have that ink, you could just restamp it with some Versamark ink just right over the top, and you'd get that dimension as well. But it just helps to just use a pigment type of ink. This is a trick you can use if you don't, let's say you don't have red, but you have red pigment ink. You could do the same thing where you could stamp in it, and then the embossing powder would stick right to it. And also another thing you can do, I wanted a little bit more of a raised image, is when you put the heat back on the embossing powder, it will heat it back up and make it sticky. And then I just stuck it right back in the embossing powder, and then it just stuck to it. So I actually did not use my anti-static tool, that powder that I had used previously in this video, because I was embossing with white, and it was in clear, and it was on white paper, and you couldn't see it. So I didn't bother doing it. But typically, if I remembered, I would definitely do it. All right, so now I am stacking these together, and I'm using some liquid adhesive. That way, I'm using the liquid adhesive, that way I can stick them together and I can move them around, and then I can get them in the perfect place. So that's why I went ahead and using the liquid adhesive, but you could use whatever you're comfortable with. There are some delicate pieces I've seen people use, like the spray adhesive as well, but I just think the liquid is just great for these purposes. And I like the way they fit together like a puzzle. They just fit perfectly together because they're die cut with the exact same die. I did go ahead and do all 4 layers. I was thinking about just doing 3, but I went ahead and did all 4, so it would just, there'd just be even a little bit more thickness there. And I love the way that looked. I love this paper. I think the hardest part for me doing this was just cutting up this paper. It actually came in last year's kit. I think it was maybe the Paislee press kit, if I remember right, from last year. And I didn't use it, but I'm using it this year, and I am having a hard time cutting it up. But my philosophy definitely is use your supplies, and especially your favorites, because I've done that so many times where I'm like, I'm going to hold off by using this paper because I know there's going to be a better way to use it, and I end up not using it. So use what you love and get them in your projects when you have the opportunity. So definitely using this paper. What you can see me do right now is I'm pulling off that white backer. Remember you saw me put on that white backer, so I'm just go ahead and pull it off. And now I'm sticking it on, and I'm just going to cut off the edge instead of pulling over my my guillotine cutter. I'm just going to use scissors because it's such a bold, a big, bold piece of paper. I'm able to just cut it no problem and easily. Then I'm using just some of my favorite adhesive just to stick that right on. And then I'm going to finish off the holes, and then I will be done with, officially done with the backside of day 6. And then I'm going to move on to day 7. So, I'm going to be honest here. When it comes to day 7, and day 8, I feel like I was all over the place. So I apologize if this edit is a little crazy. I did not want this video to be long. It's already like maybe 30 minutes or something like that. I did not want it to be too long. I already had some ideas that I wanted to do specifically for 8. I ended up not doing it. You'll see, I'll talk about it in a minute when it comes up, but I end up not officially doing it. But let me talk to you about day 7. So this story I'm telling right here is a project that I did this year. I like to do projects that incorporate the entire year. So last year, the project that I did was I made my bed every day. And I know to some that might seem kind of silly, but I definitely got out of the habit. And my husband encouraged me to do it, and I did, and it changed my life. I mean, I don't know. Having your bed made in the morning just made a big difference to what I was able to accomplish that day, believe it or not. So I decided to do another year-long project this year because I loved it. And I settled on writing a handwritten note to someone every single day. And I absolutely love this project. It is one of the most meaningful things that I did all year. And I loved the opportunity to be able to think about someone each day and who I might write a letter to. I really loved it. If you're looking for a project or something you might do, I'm telling you, this is it. I did it back in 2016 for a month, and I loved it so much that month I decided to extend it for the entire year. So that's why I decided to go with it. And the reason why I wanted to tell it in my project life is because I'm wrapping up this project. So I believe I told it 1 week in my project life, but I wanted to tell it in my December daily because it's wrapping up and I'm kind of finishing off. So I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. And the other reason why is because while I did really well and I never gave up and I totally kept going, really proud of myself for that, I did miss some days. So obviously I wasn't perfect, but I definitely want to get every day in December. So that's an additional goal that I have for the remainder of the year. So I just wrote about that. You can see that I basically finished my thought, but there was a couple more things that I wanted to say. So I just turned it over and said it. I don't know if I will ever remember that that's written on the back of that, but I have it there just in case, just because I wanted to get my thoughts down. The other thing I wanted to mention is the reason why I chose the 2017 transparency is because this was a project that I was doing in 2017. So I didn't really talk a lot about what I was doing. You saw that I pulled over that peace and joy that came from last year's kit as well. Loved those pieces. Kind of happy that there are a few left over that I could use. I am now in the process of trying to figure out how I want to incorporate the letter. And I pulled over that tag. I wish I had just done the tag. It would have made things so much simpler. I'm thinking about adding this card separate, so just having that on the outside of a pocket. But I decided to try and incorporate the 7 onto the spread. You'll see that I end up putting it, I was thinking about adding it to the 2017 there. And I don't know if I made that correlation, but the reason why I picked that transparency is because that project was from 2017. So hopefully you made that correlation. But I didn't know what to do with the 7. And like always, when I don't know what to do, I move on to something else. So I am moving on to day 8. So the story that I'm telling here is my daughter she created a song or wrote a song for her friends, and she recorded the song, and then her and another friend are going to take that song and put it to a slideshow of pictures for her friends, and they're going to give it to their friends for Christmas, which I thought was a great idea. And so that's the story that I'm going to tell here. And my idea actually was to have the tag be the outside, and then you would open it up kind of like a book, I guess, and have her photo, and then have the song lyrics is what you're seeing right there, is the printed out song lyrics. I'm trying to think of the reason why I didn't end up doing that. I end up not doing that, maybe because I needed something to go on the back side of 7, but I could have just cut down that page protector. I'm not sure why I didn't do it, if I felt like it was too similar to day 6, but whatever reason, I decided that I was just going to use the page protector for day 8, and then I would use the back side of this tag for the lyrics. So I had printed it off on that same acetate that I did on I believe it was on day 1. So if you're interested in seeing how I did that, go ahead and check it out. But this acetate allows you to, this is actually for toner ink. So you put it right through your laser printer, and that way you're able to then use the Minc machine or a laminator machine to put foil on top of it. So I thought it would be a lot of fun, instead of just doing black ink, to have a little bit of metallic feel to it and do it with red. So sometimes it looks black, and then when the light catches it, it definitely looks red. So I thought it was cool the way that it worked out there. So then I just went ahead and I'm cutting it out, definitely using the alligator clip to help me there, just because with the acetate being slippery, it would move around, and I just thought that that would help me. So now I just punched a hole through the top, and now I'm just trying to grab over some trimming, some ribbon and some twine, and I'm going to gather them all together and then put them through the tag. And I think I end up stapling this on. There's just too many. So I end up stapling these all together. I really like being able to have different ribbons and textures and twine all together. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it adds a lot of interest, and of course adds a lot of texture to the spread as well. And of course color. Like, I love that it has the ability to add color. That's one of the things that I'd like to do maybe for next year, is to get some more ribbon with some more color, maybe or a green and a red or something like that. All right, so you can see how these are going to go together. I guess I just showed you really quickly. I am going to go ahead and punch these holes now. So I'm just going to punch the holes right into the tag, and I am again using an alligator clip just to help me out so it doesn't move around while I'm trying to punch the holes. And you can see how when it catches the light, you can see the red. I think it's really cool. Now that font is really small, and I had to make it small to be able to get all the lyrics in there. But I was fine with that, because although I did get permission from my daughter to add those lyrics and this story to the album, she was kind of like, hesitant, even though she did say, that's fine, you can do it. That was one of the reasons why I was going to maybe hide it for her. But I don't know. I think it looks really beautiful the way that it is. Actually, one of the things I had thought about doing is putting the lyrics on the top of, on the top of the stars, but I thought it was just a little hard to read. And so that's why I went ahead and put it on the back side. Looking at it though, as I'm working on this and as I look at it in my album, I feel like it's a little too plain, and I have not done it yet, but I think I'm going to go back and put some of the chipboard stars or something on that tag where the lyrics are, just because I want to add a little something more to it. It's screaming too plain that it needs something. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do on the back side of that messy circle. So I'm looking at some pattern paper, and I found that chipboard that says joys of giving, which I thought would go really well with the story that I'm telling here. And I'm just looking through some pattern paper and trying to decide which one I really want or I think would be good on the back side. And I was definitely looking for more of a bold red. You can see that I turned it over and thought, oh, that white could be, the white with the polka dots could be cute. But I really wanted something bold and red. I thought that would go pretty good with the black. Of course, the white would have gone good with the black too. But I like the idea of having something more red because there was definitely a lot of white going on. And so I just went ahead and adhered that pattern paper to the messy circle. And I think this is where I go ahead and check it out and see, like, maybe I do want the white. Maybe that's too bold. So I pull it off, check it out. It's one of the reasons why I really love that stamp runner. And there's other adhesive out there like it, because that's no longer available, that adheres really well, but you can pull things apart. It gives you a minute or two to pull things apart if you want to change your mind. You can see that I just went ahead and put that back together with the red. Now I'm going to adhere that 8 right to the, whatever it's called, the tag. Just adhere that right on down. And then really the last thing that I have to do is I need to still figure out the 7. And, you saw me kind of work through it. I really liked the heart. I think I liked the magic as well, but I really wanted a pop of color. I wanted a bit more color in that spread. So you can see that I'm going to finish that off here, is just adding the 7. And I'm using this score tape, and I had to cut it in half because the 7 was quite thin. And so I'm just cutting that in half, and then you're going to see that I'll adhere that down. And I definitely am going to choose the heart, the little heart there. And I am, instead of using adhesive, I'm just going to go ahead and staple this one on. Really like the way those two looked together. I thought it was pretty cute having those two together. I really liked those hearts this year. So last year, I think those messy circles were my fave, and I think this year those hearts are one of my fave. So the last thing that I'm going to do for day 8 is this journaling. So you can see that I'm measuring it out. I'm going to go ahead and type it on my computer, and then I'm going to print it out. You can see that I'm just adding it right to the cardstock now. And then I went ahead and printed it out. You saw me do this in day 3 through 5, I believe, as well. All right, you guys, so I am done with days 6, 7, and 8. I apologize that this is a little bit longer of a video, but I really wanted to be able to show you my entire process. So thank you guys so much for being here. Like always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And definitely check out my blog. I will have it linked below. I will be adding photos so you can see more detailed photos of my days and just a little bit more information. All right, you guys, so you can see that I forgot that I had recorded this, but yeah, you can see that I am knowing that it's a little plain and that I need to figure something out, but I definitely do not do that today, so maybe in the next video. All right, you guys, we will catch you in the next one. Bye.